Welcome. I'd like to call the meeting of the Mayor's Neighborhood Safety Task Force to order. Will Jolinda please call the roll?
Christopher Storr. Present. Marianne Downey. Present. Megan McGinty. James Moreland.
Here.
John Mosca. Teresa Michelson. Kathy Wallach. Here. Norma Linton. Here. Esther Pat.
Here.
Mike Walker.
Here.
Jerry Moore.
Thank you. Next up is a motion to approve the minutes from the meeting of June 28th, 2017. Moved by Esther, seconded by Kathy. Any corrections to the minutes? Okay, all those in favor of approval, please say aye.
Aye.
Same sign. Okay, those minutes are approved. Public input. Does anyone wish to address the task force? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to discussion topics. I'd like to move the community development item B up to be first, because we do have some guests we've asked to come in and speak. That's okay with everyone? Okay. I'd like to, I invited representatives from Salt and Light to come and give a brief overview of what's going to be happening out at their new facility in the old county market on Philo Road. So we have Nathan Montgomery and Terry Austria. Please sit there, and you can introduce yourselves and make sure your microphone is on. There should be a button there to...
It's green.
It's green. That's good.
Okay.
Okay. Welcome.
So, yeah, Nathan Montgomery.
And I'm Terry Austria.
And so, yeah, excited to be here and just kind of touch base a little bit about what we're got going down the road there. So we are really looking to duplicate all of what we're doing in Champaign and then some on a much larger scale in East Urbana over there at that location. So we've been in the process of developing the space, redeveloping the space to fit our needs. There's going to be a number of different things we're offering there. One of those will be a food co-op open to the general public that will be between 11 and 12,000 square feet, so a little bit larger than your average Aldi's. More items, just because we're actually using retail style shelving rather than the pallet racking type shelving that you would find at an Aldi. So we should have a similar larger item count there with refrigeration, freezer items. I mean, very, very similar in model and type of products will be available there. And we are figuring out the pricing structure, but we're looking to have it comparable to an Aldi as far as that goes. We are excited and looking at how we might do a little better job with produce, fresh fruits and vegetables. We actually have been working with Sola Gracia as one of those avenues already, and are even exploring a grant with them where we might put a wash station in where stuff will be harvested at Sola Gracia, brought down, and we wash it and pack it and goes out through the food co-op right there. So so that's part of it. We're going to have a thrift operation about twice the size of what we have in Champaign right now, and it's really our whole idea is developing a space that both verbally and non-verbally communicates the sense of dignity. And so actually a lot of the racking that we're looking at that we just were fortunate to receive in a very large donation is more of a boutique style of racking and shelving, and so it's not going to be a run-down looking sort of corner store environment that we're putting in over there. In addition to both of those, which are really part of our programming, so I guess I don't know the familiarity of everyone on the panel, but the way our programming works at this point is our participants volunteer at area non-for-profits, and for every hour they work, they earn credit at minimum wage that they can then use to shop within the food co-op and the thrift store, so acquiring the resources they need through their own capacity. The idea is reinforcing this sense of purpose and dignity and capacity of the individuals that we work with. And so the credit earning piece is really kind of what brings a lot of people in, but then we also will be offering financial education classes, soft skills jobs training. We're putting in a computer lab that a little larger than 1,100 square feet that will be access to the residents in the area as well as instructional opportunities. Something different we're doing there that we're not doing currently in Champaign is we are also going to have a child care room. And this is going to be to provide child care for our participants who are either working on site or attending classes on site. So the idea is hopefully removing that obstacle for them. We have a couple of large classrooms, individual meeting rooms. We have a personal development piece where we meet with individuals one-on-one, really in a peer supportive relationship. The idea is for our volunteer allies to ask the right questions that help the participants identify goals, develop a plan, and provide kind of that peer support and accountability as they work that plan. So lots of different activities there. We are also, this will not be ready at the launch of everything else, but we are going to put in a coffee shop as well. For us, it really, the genesis was the reality that for communities to flourish, they need to have safe spaces to gather. And in that part of town, there's not a lot of that at this point. We're surrounded by senior living apartments, many low-income individuals who the nearest coffee shop is 2 miles away. And so for us, it's providing just access to that resource, but also another training ground for our participants that we're able to work with them in that sort of environment, really helping them to grow skills that are transferable to the marketplace. So in addition to all of the things that we're doing, we've set aside about 7,000 square feet, and we are exploring opportunities to partner with other non-for-profits that work with the same population in different capacities that might relocate some or all of their programming into our space. So it's really a co-location model that really, what we've seen in other communities where this has happened, it really just increases the efficiency and efficacy of all of the organizations that are involved, because now instead of having to go from point A to point B to point C in order to, acquire the supportive services and individual needs, many of them are in one spot. And it just allows us to work together more collaboratively as well. So right now we don't have anything official, but we do have some interested organizations that we're exploring some partnerships with. As of right now, our goal is to open everything with the exception of the coffee shop November 1st. So that's caused my eye to twitch and heartburn to start, but it's been chugging along. The construction is nearing completion now. We're in store setup. Super Value has been a partner of ours in this process, and so they are our supplier for the groceries, and they're helping us walk through that end of things. And with this also comes jobs. So our model is one, it's certainly a more developmental approach to alleviating poverty, and it's one that has long-term sustainability. So our budget the last year in our old model was 100% donation-based. This year, right now, it's going to be about 70%, 65 to 70% program revenue, people shopping, the general public shopping in the food and thrift, and the 35 to 40% donations. Next year, as we grow with the advent of Urbana, it's going to be closer to 90% program revenue and 10% donation-based. And so that's exciting. I mean, that's long-term stability and really a model that can be transferred to other communities. But once again, there's jobs. Before our model change, we employed 4 full and part-time individuals. That was in 2014. This year, we started with 17. 7 of those former clients that stood in line in the old model. We will end the year with 38. And so we're adding a number of positions in Urbana, from department managers and assistant managers to sales clerks, custodial, all the way through. And for us, we really also try and focus on the living wage issues. And so, we've really stretched to the degree that we can. Our lowest paid positions are part-time receiving people that start at $10 an hour. Our clerks start at $11 an hour. All full-time employees. We do health. We do paid time off for all individuals, full and part-time, different schedules. And so we're not just looking to provide bottom-of-the-barrel kinds of jobs, but jobs that could actually potentially help to sustain a family. And so we're excited about that as well. And we really have throughout we began posting jobs the beginning of this month and have been in hiring process and frenzy that doesn't seem like it's ever going to end. We've placed a high priority on residents from the neighborhood in particular in that area. And so we really are focusing on that and trying to ensure that to the degree that we can, we really are providing those opportunities for people that are already there. So that was a lot of information in a short amount of time. I don't know if there's any questions or anything. Would be more than happy. Terry here actually is a resident of Southeast Urbana, has been for a long time.
Since 2002?
And so he is actually our Director of Education and Personal Development. So all of our educational pieces and programming he facilitates.
Thank you. Any questions? Kathy?
Hi.
Hello.
I'm a resident of Southeast Urbana. I'm glad to see you there. We've been watching things go on. I'm curious to know what kind of publicity or notice have you given to people, especially in the Silver Water area, about what's coming, or is it too early for you to do that, or do you have plans?
Yeah, we haven't, and that's, of course, the November 1 has not even been publicly announced yet. We were kind of, you know how these projects go, you don't ever really want to count your chickens till they're hatched, and so we were waiting until we got a little closer and we were confident of when we were going to be looking to open, and then, yes, at that point really began promoting and publicizing the opportunities and what's going to be taking place there.
But if I can just add, as we've been standing up in front of the facility, we've been having conversations with people who are constantly just asking what's going on in there. And obviously just living down the block and working out at Planet Fitness, as I've been walking up and down the block, I would just ask people randomly, you know, if they knew what was going on, and just giving them a heads up that, you know, we're going to be opening up really soon. And the majority of people I've talked to have been really excited about it. Just one more option to be shopping for groceries.
And we've been having some discussions with other community leaders in the area. I know I just attended last week, I don't know, my head's mush at this point, Historic Urbana, East Urbana Neighborhood Association meeting. And so we're starting to try and do more of that, get out, get involved, begin connecting. Because at the end of the day, we recognize that you know, for us, our missionally how we look at things is we're not coming in to fix anything or any person. We're looking to come in and be a part of the community, to be a co-laborer with those that are already there, that have been doing things long before we ever arrived, and really understand the needs and the assets of the community far greater than we do. And so our desire is, as we step into this, to be able to listen and listen well, and be really a part of what's already been happening there. And so it's certainly going to be a journey. I mean, we've obviously spread very thin, and so we're just beginning to be able to do a little bit of that, but right now the margin with our director level staff is not very wide. So hopefully as we get settled in, we'll have even more opportunities.
Any other questions? Mary Ann?
I have one. When do you plan on having signage converted and that sort of thing?
So we just had our main sign go up yesterday, which was very exciting. So it's on the building. I think Terry posted something on Facebook about it. And for us, every detail is important, because we believe that how we communicate verbally and non-verbally says something about how we feel about those that come through our doors. And so even something as simple as the sign on the front, we didn't want just a big plexiglass with some stickers on it. And so you know you can see for yourself as you go by there. I mean, it's our logo. Each letter is individual. I mean, it's a really nice sign. Now, it's not connected to the electricity yet, so if you go by at night, it's not going to be very visible, but they're working on it. But it's up on front of the building, and I, you know, for us all throughout, that's going to be happening pretty quickly. So that one went up, and then I think the one by the road, I don't think that's up yet, but that should be going up within the next week or two as well.
Yes, one other question.
Yeah.
I know the Common Grounds Co-op had had trouble getting the message across to people that, or initially anyway, that they were open to the public, that you didn't have to be a member. Do you think you'll be able to get that out, that this is for everyone to shop?
Yeah, I think that, I mean, that's been a challenge in Champaign, but in Champaign we really haven't promoted it because our food area there is so small. and it just wasn't really going to bring people in as a destination grocery shopping experience because we just didn't have enough. And so, the thrift has grown, but that's still a problem. And I think that's something we're going to be looking at as far as how we better market that and communicate that. Certainly, word of mouth travels pretty quickly, but for us to really expand and get people to understand that, hey, anyone can come and shop here, and by doing that, you're actually supporting the programming and providing the credit for the participants that are working there. And so we're really hoping to really build this truly community-minded environment where we see one another as equal partners in the life that we're really walking together.
Any other questions? Will the meeting space be open to the public to be able to rent a space or use, or how is that going to work?
Yeah, so we the two classrooms we have are pretty large. They're both better than 1,000 square feet, and so we've already been being approached by a number of different organizations about facilitating different types of classes on site, and I think we might potentially be hosting a giant Filipino Christmas party in one of the areas too. So the large area that we have right now is really something that we can utilize for larger events until we actually begin to get some of these nonprofit partners in and develop that space. But for right now, it is one open almost 7,000 square foot space. And so but even the classrooms themselves are something that we're hoping to make available for people to reserve and use. And even something like a birthday party. I mean, if your home is not a place that you can host something like that for your child, that's a big deal to be able to have a place that you can do that in. And so we really are hoping to figure that. I mean, we have some of that to figure out. What does that look like from a policy perspective, and how do we navigate that? But yes, short answer, yes. We hope to make that available to the degree that we can.
And do you anticipate programming from the Park District or the library or other community?
Yeah, so I'll let Terry's
organizations?
actually been speaking with the library already. So
No, the library definitely. We've met the lady. I'm sorry.
Celeste.
Again.
Sharp,
Yeah. She's new also, so she's getting acquainted with some of her programming too. But we're going to be having ongoing meetings about things that we can collaborate on, but especially programming for children and their educational packages when it comes to science, math, reading. But the thing that really caught my attention was the music and musical instruments, which we are already looking into as far as having different local musicians come in and instruct many of the local residents. Park District we haven't addressed yet, but we are looking into that because we do have some of our life skills classes that we're looking into starting when it comes to cooking and sewing, but we do want to add more to that. To help get going on some of those classes.
Okay. Thank you. Do you have a question, James?
On your hiring, are you able to hire people from the neighborhood, even people that has police records, trying to get back on their feet?
Oh yeah, I mean we've actually even thought about targeting our coffee shop to working with that demographic in particular. We have, I mean, on our staff now, we have a number of people with their own stories to tell. And so for us, we recognize that for those in our community, that's often the hardest to find meaningful employment. And so that's always been a focus of ours. And yeah, we currently employ, in different levels of management on down, individuals with those sorts of situations.
Well, thank you. Thank you for taking time out from your construction schedule to come by. From the minute I heard about your plans, and it was, I think, last year,
Yeah.
I just thought this fills a void, and it really meets the needs of the people in the community, not just the neighborhood, but in the community as a whole. So thank you very much. Looking forward to the ribbon cutting.
Yes. So yeah, it's a whirlwind right now, and so as we're able to kind
I
of
can relate to that.
and so yeah, so we're very excited and look forward to just being here and being part of the community.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Okay, we have an update from Community Development on Aspen Court and Silver Water. And following that, we'll hear from Chief Morgan and the Police Department. This is John Schneider, Community Development Manager.
Just a brief update. We are completing the systematic inspection for all the occupied units at Aspen Court. Right now that's underway. So any unit that's occupied, we're going to complete the inspection, notify the owner, and have them to effect the repairs. We have issued a permit for installation of a fence, a security fence and gate at Learman Avenue. So that'll be provide more controlled access to Aspen Court. And we think we're going to get good news about tax credit allocation. We should be hearing about that by the 1st of October. Hopefully they'll receive the 9% tax credits, which would mean that they would begin, should that be awarded, they would begin the redevelopment of the project in probably mid-2018. Get the plans all in place, get the financing structure in place, and begin the work. I think that's the goal. And with the Southwest Urbana Silver Water property owners, we had a meeting scheduled. We had somebody, I think it was one owner from CPM showed up, and I don't know if there were wires crossed, but people from Rosecrans came to the meeting, and that was very encouraging. We talked about the possibility of them offering services in the neighborhood, and I haven't had a chance to talk to Nathan. That might be something that he might be willing to work with Rosecrans to allow that to happen. Mm-hmm. What we did discuss was possibly maybe just initial assessment, and then, because you'd have to have a different type of facility for what Rosecrans does, and then maybe figuring out a way to transport people from the Silver Water Southeast Urbana to Rosecrans facility. So I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Any questions for John on any part of the city?
Thank you.
No? Okay, thanks. Did you have a question, Kathy? Well, you could ask. I'm sure.
I'm sorry, I'm not thinking so quickly this
I
evening.
hope I can answer.
Okay. Is there any kind of reporting from the landlord as to the occupancy of their buildings, or are we concerned about that when I was told by someone who lived in a Zeruki property who recently moved that particular building is seeing a lot of vacancies?
He owns which building? I mean, you don't have to be specific, but he owns several buildings in that neighborhood. I know the ones that were condemned, he's been working on repairing, replacing all the windows and upgrading so that they're in a much better condition. They replaced the walkways, the porches, and things like that. We don't monitor whether they're occupied or not. We're at the point on October 15th, we will mail out our rental registration notification. It'll be the billing for rental registration for the rental properties in Urbana. And typically, if something's going to be remaining vacant for a long time, the property owner will ask us for forbearance. In essence, we've got a vacant unit, we haven't been able to rent it for 6 months. Do I have to register? And typically, we just require that they register if they intend to rent it any time during the year. But we don't have any way of finding out whether they're vacant or occupied. We just, our staff is in that area a lot, so we're kind of aware of what's going on. And I might add that this year, we are launching a component of our rental registration program whereby people will be able to register their properties online and pay their registration online. And a lot of property owners have requested that. We'll also get to the point where we'll at least tenants will be able to notify us, so we can contact them back for complaint processing. So we can do that, and we'll also at some point be able to receive neighborhood complaints. So if you notice something in the neighborhood that's going on, you can log in online and register a complaint. And if the way it works is you have to have a login or you have to identify yourself so we can call you back. Otherwise, it will go as an anonymous complaint, and we won't be able to contact you and return, your concern. So those are things that are coming. We're going to have it launched. I think it's live right now. We're just going through testing, But by the time we send out, we're actually going to use the system to send out the billing. So if anybody's watching this, there might be some mistakes in that billing, but we're doing the best we can to get it clear ahead of time, so.
Oh, well, just to clarify, those 3 buildings that were condemned currently aren't not yet occupied.
No,
because
there
we
are no
haven't-
units that are occupied there.
Yeah, we have not issued a certificate of occupancy.
You'll see workers sitting out on the porch. It might look like they're staying there, but we verified that no one's living in
No
those
one's living
units, so.
Okay.
We verify that on a regular basis.
Esther,
I'm just curious, do you ever get any of the fine money from him yet?
that's still in court.
Court, that's what I thought.
3 years later? 4 years? Yep. We are. Any other, well, I guess John's gone, all right. Sylvia, Chief Morgan.
Hello, everybody. All right. So I have a few pieces of information for everybody. First of all, I'm going to start with kind of a crime overall in the Silver Water area. Overall, since January to August, it is down significantly, with the exception of August was fairly close to what it was last year, and unfortunately, this month is very close and might possibly in the last couple days here reach the same level or be a little over what it was last year. So I would like to preface that with saying that overall we have had in August quite a bit of an uptick in crime, specifically in burglaries to motor vehicles and to residences. So that could be contributing to the overall calls for service that are up. Some of the calls, types of calls for service, I had a little bit of a breakdown, but some of the ones like a nuisancey kind of loud noise, loud music kind of complaints, those are down. Some other significant problems that are down are domestic related scenarios are down, which is good. Also a decrease in theft cases, and let's see, there was one other one I wanted to bring up that was down, like checking the welfare of people and stuff like that, where we've had a lot of times you think that might be, might not realize what that is, but a lot of times that'll be people that are actually out on the street that, like, people will call in and say, you know, something seems to be wrong. The person is, you know, either they've maybe passed out, or so those types of nuisance type things are down as well, which is good. Have had a little bit of a increase in disorderly subject calls, and also in like harassment and threat calls. So although overall things are down, some things kind of flip-flopped on which were more prevalent in the last year versus this year. As far as the burglaries to residences and the motor vehicle burglaries, we have had in August, specifically in August, some in July, but mostly in August, we had a really big uptick in that particular area in both of those. Over 90% of the burglary to motor vehicle cases are unlocked vehicles. And I know that, you know, some people have the philosophy of keeping their doors unlocked because they think people are going to break into their car to get whatever's in there, which is not what we see generally. If you have a computer laying in the back seat, that may be true. But generally, if you don't keep things out in the open that can be seen through your windows, they're not as likely to break the window to get into it just for change or something like that. So everywhere I go, I just try to remind people to lock their doors and keep things out of view that people can see are valuable. So and just can't seem to get that message across for people to do that, or, you know, it's kind of the problematic thing of people think, well, that's not going to happen to me, or I don't care if my change gets taken, or those sort of things. So those have been a real problem, although as of yesterday, we happened to have a neighbor call in the 700 block of Michigan that called in some burglars and said they saw 3 suspicious people at a house, and the police got there in time and surrounded the house, and we were able to make 3 arrests on that. And as I'm sure you're aware, if they are burglaring one house, they've burgled many. We did get some confessions from them, although I don't have a count on if they were able to link them to other burglaries and what that count would be at this point. So they're still working on that.
700 West or East?
East.
East, okay.
Yeah. There was I think it was 15, 16, and 18. There was one 18-year-old. So, all right. Overall, I think for burglaries, even though they do seem to be down this year overall, again, I think August was specifically high for us. And so that. I don't know if that's going to continue in a trend and we're going to even out for the year, but so far from January to August compared to last year, we are down, even though we've had the recent uptick in that. I was going to move on to shootings next, just to give you a update about that. Luckily, we've kind of seen the same thing with shootings, unfortunately. You know, overall, they are down, although August was a particularly bad month, unfortunately, but more so for Champaign than us, thankfully. But at any given time, that can change. Obviously, people don't recognize Wright Street as a divider. They don't really care about that when they're doing what they're doing. So we recognize that that is just a matter of luck sometimes. So it looks like we have had 13 shots fired incidents in Urbana this year. And overall, there have been, in the entire Champaign-Urbana and the immediate surrounding area that may be county jurisdiction, there have been 62 year-to-date, and only 13 of them have been Urbanas. The most recent one in Urbana was back in August 27th. That was in the 1400 block of Beach Street. And since we've last met, I think, refresh my memory here, I think we did have one that was domestic related in the 1700 block of Colorado, but that was the only thing that was anywhere near the Silverwater area. So, does anybody have any questions on any of that? Or crime in general, I guess.
Could you speak to the 2 pedestrian accidents that we've had in the last couple of weeks? Pedestrians being hit
Oh,
by
I'm sorry.
vehicles.
Yes, I was for some reason blanking on the first one, which was Ohio and Lincoln, roughly in that area. That was a pedestrian that was crossing the street, not in a crosswalk, and wearing dark clothing, and she is expected to. I'm not 100% sure fully recover, but mostly recover. She will be fine, and I believe she's still in the hospital at this point. But that was technically, yes, that was a pedestrian that was not in a crosswalk there. I know that some people had some concerns about that, but we were able to determine that that was the case. So the driver of the vehicle was unable to see her and wasn't. And again, since it wasn't in a crosswalk, wasn't necessarily expecting a pedestrian. So the second one was just right outside of the city building yesterday, right outside my window. And that person was trying to run across the street at, well, it was almost 5 o'clock. It was between 4 and 5. And the problem, did you see it? Oh, is that what you said? All the stuff, yeah. So that person was also crossing right just north of the city building, and ran across. They were going toward Lincoln Square. They ran across the northbound traffic and got to the median and continued to run both lanes coming south. There were vehicles at different spacing, so the one in the closest lane to the median was able to see the person and slammed on their brakes and stopped. And so the person kept running. Unfortunately, the person in the outside lane was unable to see that this person was running. I think they were blocked by the vehicle and spacing. They didn't see, and so that person, as they ran in front of that one that slammed on their brakes, the other car hit them. That person went to the hospital and was in stable condition yesterday. I don't know if they kept that person or not. But the driver was arrested for, I'm going to say suspended license. I may be wrong. It might have been revoked, but was also possibly DUI. But again, I'm not sure that was the contributing factor for that particular accident, but that's what we found out about that. Any questions about that?
Chris?
Thank you. I live in the neighborhood, and I see a lot of people crossing, especially going out the city building and so forth, crossing to the Lincoln Square area. Could there be some sort of a zebra stripe or something put out to for these areas to allow people to have a better chance of crossing safely?
Well, I would have to, I guess I would have to ask Public Works if that was something they would put there. I don't know that they would necessarily, on that particular space of road, if they would put anything other than, the problem is this is a busy road out here, and there are crosswalks at Illinois Street and up further, and but you're right, a lot of people do cross in front of the city building. They go right out the front doors and cross, and a lot of employees probably do that too. And yes, I understand what you're saying. I don't know that painting on the pavement would slow traffic down, though, for that. Right, and that's what I'm saying. I'm not sure that it would slow it down so shy of having more of a lighting or a crossing light there. I don't know that it would help, honestly, but that's my opinion.
Perhaps signage?
Yeah, again, I don't know if it would help or not, but it's certainly something, I mean, we could try to look at in the Traffic Commission and possibly see if that's something we could do or not. The other issue being, we have the fire station here, and we have a lot going on out in front of the city building here, and I suspect that what they'll find is that the best place for people to cross is at Illinois Street, regardless of how far away it is, unfortunately, just because it's a busy road.
Any other questions for Chief Morgan,
On that topic? Okay.
or any topic?
Do you want to talk a little bit about opioid on the
Yeah, that came in
Okay.
from a
Okay,
commission.
but no more questions about crime, right? All right, so I struggle with what to say about this particular problem. I can tell you that the Urbana Police Department, we have officers that carry Narcan, and if you're not familiar with what that is, it is, quite frankly, a miracle drug for people that have overdosed on heroin or fentanyl. It will literally bring them back from the dead. I've seen people that are completely without a pulse be given a shot of this and literally wake up and try to walk away from you. So it has saved, we've had multiple saves with that between the fire department. They have a lot more than we do, but between the fire department and the police department, we have saved multiple people's lives with that medication. I don't think that's the answer to the problem. That's our police response to the problem. I think as the legislation the legislators have recently come to realize that this is a much bigger problem that's not going to be solved in the police world, and it needs to be attacked from different realms as far as trying to get people to not be addicted and to get them recovery help and those sorts of things. And I don't know if you read the recent legislation that, or the recent executive order from the governor for, I believe it's called a opioid prevention and intervention task force to be formed to try to attack some of these and come up with some solutions to some of the problems and to look at some of those other areas. And it's not certainly not focused on the police aspect of it. It's too late by the time we get there usually, or we're there with the Narcan, and that's not the solution. So they're trying to at least see now that there's an issue, and I believe they're also there was another piece of information that I read about going and kind of putting out setting letters to some of the big medication companies, pharmaceutical companies, asking them to help. You make all this money off of medication. Help us solve this problem. Help us, combat this problem, and hoping that some of them would step forward with money for some of the maybe programs and things like that they want to try to address this problem. But obviously we have our street crimes task force that tries to go after some of the dealers, and that is only it really is not a problem solver. I mean, I think we all know, the war on drugs is we're not winning that, regardless of what the drugs are. We fight it every day and try to, we make good arrests and we do all those things, but there's still someone else that's going to step up and start doing it again. And so, as much as we try to combat that, we're not going to solve the heroin problem that way either. So we need help from some of these other areas to try to help save these people's lives. So that's kind of an overview of some of the things I know about it, what we're trying to do to try to get some of those things going here in Illinois, and kind of how the police here at Urbana deal with some of those things. Any questions?
Kathy?
I noticed CVS is stepping up. They've made a
Good.
policy that you have to come in every 7 days. They will not fill any prescription for longer than a 7-day period.
Well, that's good. Yeah, and I think some of the task force was trying to go after some of the prescribers and trying to get them to use the prescription, a tracking system, so that they can check and say, this person was just in a hospital, over here trying to get this prescription last week, and trying to track things that way. And I liken it to the pseudoephedrine when we had when they made that into law. Now they check your ID and they run it through, and you can't just go everywhere and buy a bunch of Sudafed. So I envision it something like that, for them to have. I think that would be helpful as well, as far as trying to. But the other problem outside of that is not just the doctors, because there are synthetic forms of heroin, and they're being made in illegal laboratories, just like other types of drugs are made illegally, even though so if they can't get it from a doctor, it's just like other street drug now. You can go and it can be made illegally and sold on the street, just like. So not everybody's getting necessarily real heroin, and not everybody's necessarily getting Oxycontin from a doctor. Sometimes it's the synthetic drug that's being made illegally that they're getting as well. So it's a multi-pronged problem.
Any other questions? Marianne?
I'm very pleased that our programs here in the police department and the fire department are using the Narcan. I know it's not the solution, but at least it's a kind of a stopgap in
Sure.
the meantime, and it's a nationwide epidemic. I wonder if we draw some of that activity as a result of being a university town, and that our students are kind of a target for these predatory.
That's not what we're seeing.
Okay.
That's not really what we're seeing. In fact, so heroin is a narcotic, which is a painkiller type of, it's a narcotic analgesic. And so it's a little different than some of the other street drugs that we deal with like methamphetamine and cocaine. Those are stimulants. And so those are more of a drug I would expect to see centered, that and cannabis centered around like a college student stuff. I'm not saying there aren't college students that have some type of a narcotic analgesic addiction, but usually it stems from, more often than not, it stems from the person having had some sort of an injury in which they were prescribed that medication, and they form an addiction from that, more often than not. It's not always just somebody saying, oh, I want to try heroin or fentanyl. You know what I'm saying? That's not most common way that people become addicted to that type of drug. Any other questions? Do you mean like racial demographic or, oh? Yeah, I mean, so I'm not sure I could speak to that without looking into it to see for sure what we're seeing, but it doesn't seem to be a drug that is centered around any one particular demographic, whether it be age. That's my impression, but I'd certainly have to look at the numbers to confirm that, but. Well, and the reason why I say that is because whenever we have a police report that involves a student, that gets flagged and gets sent over to the university. That's an agreement we have with the university. So those are flagged in a certain. You see what I'm saying? So I would know if that is something as a common flag for us. So that's not what we're seeing with a lot of this heroin stuff.
Any other questions? Okay.
Great.
Thank you, Sylvia. I think we'll move on to reports from neighborhood groups, then go back to item C there on discussion, just so we have time to hear from folks. Mary Ann?
HUNA met last week. We have an influx of new residents that are sort of rekindling the HUNA organization, and it's really exciting for us who've been around longer to see them step in and come up with really great ideas. The comments that I heard of concern from that group are mostly revolving around burglaries and that car break-in situation that was described a moment ago. Several of our neighbors were involved in that. Mm-hmm. And they even mentioned the fact that a lot of the folks had their cars unlocked. And so that's something that I can take back to the group, that we'll try to do a better job of communicating about that on our website and so forth. An odd comment that came out in the last meeting also was almost everyone in the room had an encounter with a dog that was not on a leash. Either they were walking their dog and attacked by a dog. One woman was attacked by 3 dogs at one time. Those dogs, we learned, were euthanized because they broke skin, I suppose. So it sounded as though there was some sort of a common concern there. We're going to look into the proper department in the city to...
Animal control?
Yes,
Yeah.
to make sure that people are aware of what we need to be doing.
They need to be calling animal control. Yeah.
And that, I think, is what happened when those
Okay.
3 were euthanized
Yeah,
in that
okay.
situation. I think that's the majority of what people are concerned about.
Okay.
They are very excited about the Salt and Light program coming in that particular area. It's just, I think, really, really good news.
I think the word needs to get out that it's a grocery store. It's a place for everybody. And when I met with Nathan months ago, he described it. It's shopping with a social conscience. I mean, it's kind of, so I think it will appeal to a lot of people. And as I said, it fills the void in fresh fruit and vegetables and good food over there. So, thanks. Anything else happening? But Learman Avenue.
For Elnet, Lemonade, we got the garden, like, we got a shed and everything's taken care of, so we got all the tools in the shed, so,
And you raised it through GoFundMe?
yes. Go for me.
Congratulations.
So, the garden's doing pretty good, so, any comment? But the garden's looking good, and they're stripping a lot of food out almost every Saturday, so, yeah.
Be looking forward to some of the statistics from the,
Well, we will too.
Okay.
When we get to it.
great, wonderful.
We see people working the gardens on Sundays when we drive by that area, so good job.
Okay. Any other concerns from Lerman? From the area? No?
Not really.
Okay.
I don't know.
We did discuss something about the last meeting.
Can you speak into the microphone, Clyde?
Is the mic on?
Is it on? Push the button.
Okay. It seems like I do remember us discussing, this is relatively minor though, something about garden being, you know, people getting into the garden, but I think we sort of solved that with signs. I think we'll find out in the next meeting. But there was someone brought up the possibility of getting law enforcement involved, but that was about it. It's relatively minor.
Okay, thanks. Megan?
Over in my neighborhood, it's starting to look really good. I mean, every time I turn around, there's a new Habitat house. They just took over a vacant lot over on Church, and 2 have gone up in, oh my gosh, the last couple of weeks. They look lovely. I am assuming that garage has sold. I've seen a dumpster and wood coming out of it. He just knew I was going to mention that property.
You're talking about 802 North Goodwin and 1118 West Hill. Both those properties were purchased by Rector Property Management, and he's planning on rehabbing that former Harlow license service, former Harlow gas station, into, I think it's going to be his office. So it'll be Jason Rector, Rector Property Management, and he hasn't decided what he's going to do with the house, but the house will be coming down hopefully within the next 2 months, I'm going to guess.
Okay, because I noticed there was more signage on there that said that, you know, it was going to have to be demolished. So
Yeah, what happened was we worked with our legal staff, and we initiated, you know, the process to start the court action. And through the notification process, I think the owner decided to sell, and that way they wouldn't be required to demolish. So the new owner, we've been working closely with them. It's just a matter of finding out what because he just recently purchased it, so finding out what his plans are and working with them to get that demolished as soon as we can.
excellent. What's going on where that nursing home had remained vacant for, I think it was like 8-10 years? They just demolished that. Has anybody purchased that property with an intention for another apartment building?
Not to my knowledge. My understanding is that Kelly Dillard, who is Diggett Construction, was the one that's, I don't know if, I think he owns the property as part of the acquisition. He bulldozed it, and it's more of a speculation, similar to what happened to the Hanford Inn. So the city worked with him. That's a different type of project, but he demolished the Hanford Inn. So those are two really, you know, we had hopes that the care center is what you're talking about would be redeveloped, but there was a lot of interest, but the cost to do it was so extensive that people decided they weren't and they couldn't sell it. So eventually Kelly bought it and demolished it.
Thanks so much. I appreciate all you've done
You're
on
welcome.
both those points.
And while you're there, one of the concerns I know from just about every neighborhood are the vacant properties or the properties that are vacant and neglected. And one of them that's been around forever in the West Urbana neighborhood, the one on Ohio Street.
Right.
Can you share the news about that one?
The one that's been neglected on Ohio Street was recently acquired by a gentleman that's going to rehab it. So that should be in process right now.
It's, what are the
It was-
cross streets? Just, it's west of...
I think it's 702 West Ohio, I think is the address. 708 or 702, maybe.
Maybe it's
there.
708. I think I know the people who live at
Yeah.
702.
Actually, the history of it was the gentleman that owned that property many years ago established the John Birch Society in Urbana, so, yeah, apparently.
But it's been vacant for a couple decades,
And
right?
it was so covered with vegetation, our staff didn't even know it was vacant until the neighbor called and let us know that, so.
Across from, yeah. So this will make a huge difference in that plan. Yeah.
Could I ask just one more question. The neighborhood folks have been saying that the properties on Lincoln between Hill and Church, where Church doesn't actually go through, have been purchased and the entire block is going to be demolished?
That was a discussion at, I think, the Plan Commission several times. Not all of those properties have been purchased, but I think Howard Wakeland purchased several of those properties. He owns quite a bit of property, like on the Church Street, unimproved area of Church Street, and some of those properties there. But there are still, I believe, 3 or 4 owner-occupied, and there have been a few attempts to get that area rezoned, but they have been unsuccessful.
So at this point, it's just going to remain as it is with...
As far as I know, yes.
Okay. And also, on Hill, there are 2 other properties. One is at, I think it's 1115, and it had been owned by Green Street Realty, but it's been vacant for the last 8 months. Do you have any idea what has gone with 1118 or 1116? Both of those are now vacant and have been for quite a while, and there's been some decent amount of juvenile activity on those properties lately.
Okay, 1118 was the one that was the Mannon property that's Mr. Rector purchased. You mentioned 3 properties. You said 1115,
Right.
1116, 1118. 1118 was the Mannon property, which went with 802 Goodwin to Jason Rector.
It did.
Yeah.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah. And then across the street, 1115 was, I believe, Rick Knoll's house that was also owned by the Mannon family, and I think that, that's remained vacant, but she's kept that up generally on the outside, but we've been working with her to try to do more. Hopefully she'll be able to sell that, too. The other one, what was the other address, 1116?
Yeah.
I'm not...
Or no, I'm sorry, 1115.
1115, I think, is Rick Knoll's house.
Then it would be 1113. the one next to it.
1113, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't aware that's vacant. We can check on that. If Green Street owns it, we'll get them to do something with it.
Okay, thanks.
Mhm.
Okay, Kathy. Reports from Suna.
No news is good news. I just need to thank whoever's keeping things calm at Silver and Water. We appreciate that. And I don't know, what do you do about people that don't lock their cars? You know, I don't get it.
Well,
Yeah.
Of the 186 motor vehicle burglaries through August 31st of this year, over 90% were cars that were unlocked. So if those cars had been locked, you would have had 167 fewer burglaries,
Right.
just from that simple act alone.
Right.
So,
Chief Morgan, is that still a teleserve, or is that an officer call? Burglary to motor vehicle?
It's an officer call.
Okay, I just look at the time it takes for an officer to go out and deal with that. It's crazy.
yeah, if there's a message you can take back to people in the neighborhood, it's lock your cars.
It's not a big deal, people. Just lock your car.
Norma?
Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't track the dates. I'm thinking that these car break-ins and garage break-ins and yard sign, well, that was more recently, happened throughout the summer, not just in August, but I can't swear to that. But the one that caught my attention recently was that apparently 3 bicycles were taken out of a garage past a car, so it had to have some kind of finesse. It wasn't just an opportune thing. So that's a little bit more invasive, literally. But otherwise, a similar kind of thing's been going on.
Was that garage locked?
I don't know. Probably not. But
Not to
3,
blame the victim,
no,
I'm
but
just
but
curious.
to go into the garage and get 3 bicycles out past a car, I mean, that's a little bit more than just the, bicycles from the driveway. That, I don't know. Several of the people said they had called the police, but I don't know how religiously all of them, no, I don't think the yard signs were called in, but I'm not sure. That's it.
Okay. Any other items to report? Oh. Mike?
as I was saying, I work late on weekends, and on my way home, roughly around 11-ish, as I was approaching home about a half a block away, I noticed that there was a collection of police cars right around the Washington-Learman area. I was just wondering if anybody knew what had gone on that night, because there was a lot of activity, and I didn't stop to ask what was going on, but I did hear one of the officers tell a couple bystanders that they need to continue going wherever they were going. So I figured something must have been up. So, and they just, after about maybe 10 minutes or so after that, they sort of dispersed and went on their way. So I'm not sure if they were there making an arrest, a sting, or what. So
What was the date again? We can check.
it was
for
on
you.
this past Sunday night.
Okay. We can
And
check.
there's an off chance I was wrong and it may have been Saturday night, but it feels like Sunday night.
Okay. We can check. We can check on it.
Once again, the statistics of the amount of cars that that were unlocked, so I can.
Yes, this is
make
from our
point.
statistician, Melissa Haynes. There were 186 burglaries for motor vehicles through August 31st of this year, which is down from last year, but still too many. Over 90% of the cars were unlocked in those burglaries. And that's consistent. They're just, if there's one single thing a person can do to protect your property, it's lock your car.
Well, some things don't have locks, unfortunately, like yard signs. Not everything is lockable.
Oh, yeah.
If the cars are.
Yeah, the cars
Cars
are
are
lockable. Usually.
You have the key in your hand.
I wanted to take this opportunity to introduce, before we adjourn, Natalie Kenny Marquez, who's our new communications coordinator. Natalie, do you want to come up here and tell everyone about I never miss an opportunity to promote the city newsletter, our new newsletter, which is something else that you can promote through your neighborhood listservs and your organizations.
As the mayor mentioned, my name is Natalie Kenny Marquez. I've actually been with the city of Urbana for about 5.5 years. Past 5 years, I've been running the farmers market, Urbana's market at the square. So I'm excited for this transition to be the communications coordinator. My background, I was a public information officer for a suburban Chicago community before moving home. This is home. So happy to be here. One thing that we've launched right off the bat is an e-newsletter. We started the first edition in August, and we send it out the beginning of each month. To subscribe, you can visit our website, urbanaillinois.us. The next one is coming up very shortly. We filmed the mayor's message today within a fire engine, so that was very exciting.
And it was on public safety.
Yes.
So this is Fire Safety Month.
And included lock your cars as one of the messages. But I try to promote it through our social media as well as talk about it, and so does the mayor any chance that we get. But we'd love to offer you the opportunity to share this with the people in your neighborhoods, to get them to sign up. Each edition has an update from the mayor, in addition to some news and happenings, some department updates, as well as some activities that are sponsored or endorsed by the city. And so at first I was a little worried that we wouldn't have enough content. Now we're overflowing with content, so it's definitely a good piece of information to share with your fellow neighbors.
And if there's something especially great happening in the neighborhoods, people can share it with you, and
Yes.
we could also feature it in the newsletter, or at least put a little announcement in it as well.
I'm always searching for content, so my role is fairly new, but my goal is to get out and about and meet folks and learn about what's going on so we can better tell our story of why Urbana is such a great place to live, work, and do business. So if you have story ideas or suggestions or feedback or ideas for content, email me anytime. I have a really long email address, so if you just search our website for my name, you'll find it.
And this is part of our overall effort to tell Urbana's story. We all know what a great place Urbana is to live because many of us have lived here for a long, long time, and some not. But we really are taking charge of our own narrative, and we want to share our story. So we're also, another project Natalie is working on with Jason Liggett is a video, kind of a welcome video, but it's something that realtors can use, that we'll have on the website, that people can use, that we're going to use to also promote the good things about Urbana. So that's, and it will feature schools, parks, neighborhoods, and some of the many things that we do in this community. So I'm excited about that as well.
The newsletter, it's an electronic newsletter, so it will go to inboxes, email inboxes. You can subscribe, and it'll automatically come each month to your inbox, and you can go to the city website to subscribe.
If you go to the home page under online services, you'll see the link to subscribe to the newsletter. And once you sign up for it, you'll get it every month on the first of the month. Or second, as the case may be. If it's the first Monday of the month, we'll
Yes.
say.
All right.
Great, thanks,
Thank
Natalie.
you.
The last item on the agenda we hadn't gotten to was task force role moving forward. I haven't received any requests from people as far as a focus. In the past, this task force has helped Mayor Pressing in the past form a policies such as the aggravated nuisance ordinance. I think we worked on the aggressive solicitation ordinance. We kind of responded to the need. There's nothing at this point that I see that the task force that I would say here's what we need to work on, but I will take direction from you and what you see as the need, and until then, if you're okay with meeting quarterly in a context like this, we'll plan on doing that. Yes, Esther?
I think it's good to meet quarterly, although I'd suggest our next meeting not be on December 27th.
I would agree with that. I think Jolanda, we already had that discussion, didn't we? What's your pleasure? Should we move it to January? Do you want to? That would be the following month, or do you want to wait till what would next? January, February,
Actually,
March?
if you did it January and then went quarterly, that would put us on January. I mean, within October, and then again January. It'd be better than conflicting
Okay,
with November
all right.
and
So we say the next
December.
meeting is January, last Wednesday in January. Is that all right with everyone? Okay. Great. Oh. Okay, let's do that. That'll keep it consistent. So January 24th, 2018. Okay. All right, well, seeing no further business before the task force, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.